Everyone, this is update for January 2, 2023, day 313 of the war and of the date update. So today is going to be pretty short, but we're going to actually focus on the front line today. Let's start. First, couple words about the power grid distribution system. It's still around in a coma phase. In a nutshell, what's going on is, on one hand, there are Russian attacks, transformers being destroyed. They also damage the power generators. By that I mean the power plant power generators, not just these portable things. And then at the same time, Ukraine receives, replacement transformers, other equipment to kind of keep it sort of in coma phase. So there's this fight between those two forces. Sometimes the force of sort of renewing and replenishing the system a little bit wins. Then Russian attacks happen, and everything rolls back to sort of the basics, or even kind of like goes deeper into the territory of like complete coma. Past there's 3-4 days, Russian attacks are not as successful. I mentioned this before also about 5 days ago, that seems that the effectiveness of those attacks is going down. I'm not saying that they are sort of not deadly or anything. It just, the trend is, it looks like it's going in a positive direction for Ukraine and in negative direction for Russia. That's all it is. I'm not saying that everything's great and perfect and things problem is solved. Not at all, by any means. Ukraine still lacking anti-air defense system, lacking skills, the most important is Ukraine is lacking system. There's no system, there's no organization. You've heard me, I said many times before about incompetent, greedy, corrupt Ukrainian top. So that just defines the rest. Sort of, how they say that fish rots from the top, right? And that's exactly what it is. Starts at the top, and then those people at the top pick equally, corrupt and incompetent people to put under them, and so it just kind of like then cascades down in that way. Now let's actually do a walk through the front line in a clockwise fashion, starting from very north. So the intensity of their sort of exchange of artillery fire and rocket fire along the state border somewhat went higher, somewhat elevated as a whole, but generally the situation is pretty elevated and intense. And I would say even it's not even sort of not physically, but almost like psychologically, almost feel high level of bitterness, animosity, and all of this negative on both sides, heightened level. Not even sure why it is happening, but it's just there's some kind of, almost you can sense this high level of negativity. I don't even know how to explain it better. Then let's check this North Lugansk front line. Things here are more or less firmly in the Russian hands. As you can see, they're trying to attack. The only place where Ukrainian command or Ukrainian troops still have some kind of initiative is this in the most southern section, where Ukrainian troops are trying to infiltrate in this forest here that's sort of south of Dibrova, and they're trying to infiltrate essentially in this northeastern direction to essentially squeeze Russian troops out of here. And then kind of like apparently the goal is to essentially capture this bridge here and cut off Crimea itself, and then you essentially creating big risk for this entire group here and force their withdrawal to the eastern side of this stream. That's apparently the logic there. Whether it's going to succeed is I'm very skeptical, but you know what, Ukrainian command is trying, and that's better than just throwing troops in suicidal frontal attacks against Russian troops. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line. This is the worst situation right now for Ukrainian side here. As you can see right away, there was essentially Wagner mercenaries, which Russian troops. They continue exploitation of their initial success near Yakovlivka, which they captured, I think, about a week, well, probably like 10 days ago at this point. So they are they approaching Rozdolivka, this village here. At this point, I don't have firm information if this appendix is still holding or this has been evacuated by Ukrainian troops. But as you can see, the situation is getting, I would say, bad and terrible by day. Essentially, the front line here is completely broken. Starting from this area, like a little bit south of Vimka, it's essentially writing is on the wall that thinks that Ukrainian command probably will be forced to do some kind of withdrawal to create new straight front line, and at the same time the the death rate is extremely high here. It's also actually reminds me of World War II. Maybe it was World War I, but I just have sort of well, not memories, but stories from people from World War II, where there was a joke. There are two ways out. They said hospital or into Earth. There was using some special terms for that time, which is called I think it was Narkomzdrav and Narkomzem. So, which means that essentially at that time was the Ministry of Health or Ministry of sort of Land Resources, which was also kind of play on you can go either into land or into the hospital. So the same right now is among Ukrainian troops here. The same kind of feeling right now is there are two ways out of this area. It's either be dead or be in hospital. There's almost like no third way out. I'm sure the same is on the Russian side, because the human toll on Russia's side is equally high and probably higher at the same time. So as you can see, so essentially at this point, Soledar is outflanked, and if Russia captures Rozdolivka and moves here a little bit, it's essentially at this point it's almost Soledar is kind of like done, almost guaranteed to be lost. The same as if this is not lost, this area with Vesela Bilogorivka, it's even more guaranteed, like 99% it's going to get lost. So now let's move a little bit south. Situation here for Bakhmut is not that bad yet, but as for Soledar is right now. But essentially the same idea is being played by Russian side, right? There's deep breakthroughs to the north and south, and this is forces hand of Ukrainian command that will be forced to withdraw. So that's essentially what's happening there. Then Russian troops continuing their attacks in the southern sort of area, not directly south of Bakhmut, but sort of more south, this out of Kurdyumivka, and then there is a fighting at this point going on in Klishivka. So Klishivka is not firmly in Ukrainian hands. So, and just a reminder, there's this channel, freshwater channel, that essentially creates natural kind of like defensive position. And Russian troops, what are they trying to do? They're going along this channel and they try to sort of clean up all of this area, right? Which at this point is getting harder and harder for Ukrainian troops to hold on, because the rest of it is on the western side of the channel. So you kind of naturally disconnected from the rest of your troops. So that's what's really happening. In the direction, the sort of goal, the next goal for the Russian troops is completely capture Klishivka and then turn towards Ivanivsky here. So that's once they capture Klishivka, they start moving to Ivanivsky. The fate of Bakhmut is essentially sealed. It's not there yet, as I said. It's not similar situation to Soledar, where it's, I would say, pretty much it's done there. So that's the situation here. As I said, it's, as you can see, it's not not every day, but this sort of negative news happen, I'd say, frequent enough to understand that things going in the wrong direction here. Now let's look at central Donbass front line. Things here are much more stable. There is still fighting going on in Marinka, street fighting. Russian troops are reporting that they're advancing, but I would say it's not even a snail speed advance. It's probably something even else. I don't even know what other sort of creature would have, but they still, because about I don't know, 3 weeks ago they were claiming they control 70 or 80% of Marinka, and they still sort of fighting there. So, which tells us that they just bogged down there. And then all these futile attempts here and north of Avdiivka that so far don't lead to anything. So overall, situation here is much better. It's not great for Ukrainian side, but it's much more stable. And I would say the reason for that is because here Ukrainian side is facing regular Russian troops, which is the same Soviet army, versus up north they facing, let's call it, new army, very entrepreneurial army, which Ukrainian side does not have strategic answer to, and as long as Ukrainian side does not, the sort of negative things will continue happening. And then let's quickly check Zaporizhzhia front line. I just want to update one thing here because because Russian resources are reporting that Russian troops are advancing here, which is in fact is not true. So basically, what they're doing, they kind of like recycling old information, claiming that this village Dorozhnyanka here is captured just right now by Russian troops. It's being controlled by Russian troops since April of 2022. So this is basically to create sort of kind of fake victories. They start sort of recycling old news. So that's just want to let you know, if you hear that's just what's really happening there. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.